What's up, man?
Hey, how we doing?
Good. Let's talk about kids, dude.
Let's do it. Yes, I am about to be a dad in like a month, and I honestly have no idea what the heck it's gonna cost me. So, yeah, I'd love to know what am I looking at? I'm gonna have a kid in February. How much is that gonna cost me in terms of money per month, at least in the first year or so?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, congratulations once again.
Thank
When
you.
I talked to you and Jen last, I suggested Akash is a great name for the potential child. I just want to remind you, maybe keep that under consideration. So yeah, but the background here for me is I've been talking to people about what it costs to raise a child, and this is an outgrowth of my emotions and finance project, where I've just been talking to people about how do you feel about money. One of the questions a lot of people have, or a life goal, is to have a child, and they feel paralyzed because they're like, I hear it costs a lot of money, but I don't even know what that money is. I don't know how to plan. I don't know how to save, etc. So I've just been asking people, um, what's your experience raising kids? So I have some preliminary research that I can share with you, but maybe we just start with your questions and then I'll show you some of the data that I've gathered.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I'm somebody who I like to keep a budget and I like to know what my monthly expenses are going to be. And I just don't feel like if I Google, I have a good sense of what this might be adding to my monthly budget.
Yeah. So I can say that the statistic that gets passed around a lot on the internet is this study done by the New York Times where they said it costs about 300K to raise a child from 0 to 18. That is, I think, directionally accurate. So I would say of that 300K, one third is daycare, and it's in the first 5 years. So of that 300K, and it's not going to be exactly 300K, but roughly people are spending around 100K in medium cost of living cities for daycare over the course of 5 years.
Wow. And good to know. Um, yeah, so it sounds like the biggest, is that including college? So is it
No,
daycare and college or okay.
no, this is
So
we're not talking about any other educational
yeah.
special needs private school. We're talking about literally from age 0, where the child can't do anything, to age 5, where in theory a child can grow up as a feral kid in a wasteland and fend for themselves.
Got it.
So
That
age
makes
0 to
sense.
5.
And they go to school, I'm assuming, and then that alleviates a lot of the daycare needs.
Yeah.
So yeah, so putting daycare aside, because I am interested in daycare, but I'm just interested also, like, so for the first 5 months or so, I think my wife and I are going to be able to, we have leave and we can take care of the kid. What what are we looking at? I know it might not be the biggest numbers, but like, yeah, what can I expect to be different, do you think? I mean, diapers, food, what kind of cost besides the daycare or do you see?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of, let's call them startup costs:
Yeah.
crib, strollers, car seats, booster seats. That's an upfront cost. The more that you can get handed down to you from friends or Facebook Marketplace or whatever, the better. That's a significant cost defray. People are happy to give away old baby stuff. The one thing that you can't take hand me down are car seats. Car
Hmm.
seats must be bought new. That is by law. I don't know if it's federal law or it's state law, but at least in Texas, it's a at the minimum a state law, because you don't know where that car seat has been. So for safety reasons, you have to buy car seats new. Everything else you can get handed down.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I love that. So startup costs, if you were to put a ballpark number on that, what am I looking at for all that? Let's even assuming I can do some, I mean, some I can do from friends, some I can do from Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
So this is just ballpark from one of the people that I talked to. Crib and diaper supplies, crib, stroller, etc., like 4K.
Hmm. Okay.
That's a one-time cost. So car seats might be another. So we're talking 4 to 5K, let's say, for all this stuff. Depends
Got
on
it.
where how much you're going to use, how many car seats you need, and how often you're going to use them depends on where you live.
Got it. And what's that pregnancy line? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, this was somebody said out-of-pocket cost for their pregnancy, but there was another person who had significant complications related to labor,
Mm,
and they needed an extended hospital stay, and then that cost 15K for the car.
got it. Got it. Yeah.
In
So yeah, go ahead.
in general, though, if you have good insurance, these costs of the actual delivery and doctor's visits during the pregnancy are not very high, is what I've heard
Yeah.
from. So if you're thinking about having a kid, the strategy is, well, at most one person can be a solopreneur. The other person needs to be W-2 for insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been my experience. We have good insurance through my wife, and it's helpful in a lot of ways. Though it's crazy, we don't know how much it'll cost us to deliver the child. No hospital can give us a straight answer. I've tried, but I guess it's one of those you just got to wait and see. But if you have good insurance, I think we'll be okay, hopefully. Um, so yeah, so tell me, so this is like, let's say 5K in terms of startup costs. What about ongoing costs that we're looking at?
That's all this stuff. So you see, I've talked to 3 people so far, and we've got ages 2 to 4, ages 3 to 5. So this is going to be what's most relevant for you.
Yep,
Pretty big range on diapers. These are all annual costs. So you could
yeah,
call it maybe 300 to 500 for diapers. These people
yep,
are probably buying them from different stores at different costs.
yep.
Diaper costs are going to scale down. So these things, like these kids poop nonstop till age 3. So you're changing diapers 5 times a day. And then when you get to age 3, they're almost potty trained.
Got it.
If you get potty training on time, then you're down to $120 a year on diapers at age 3. I know my brother's oldest daughter, she was potty trained when she was like 2.5, so they didn't have this expense. So all of these things have like a significant amount of variability depending on just the growth rate of the child. But
Got it.
the budget, let's call it all in cost. Let's create I'd
Yeah,
say be on the safe side. Let's say it's $500 per year for 3 years, and then, or $500 a year, age 0, age 1, age 2. So that's 1,500. And then let's call it 200 more for that age 3.
yep,
So all in over the life of the child, 1,700 on diapers. Let's call it that.
yep. Makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah, I think what as somebody who thinks in monthly terms,
Yeah.
it's helpful. So let's just start with the 0 to 2 to 4, I see, or like really early stages. You
Yep.
know, it looks like especially if daycare is the big expense, like I'd be curious, what's my monthly expense um with daycare? What's my monthly expense without daycare? Yeah, so with daycare, yeah, why don't you answer that question for me
Yeah.
roughly?
So monthly is going to be something like this. You're
Yep,
looking at 2 to 3K monthly
yeah.
with daycare. Now, keep in
And what,
mind, these people are in Texas, so I'm counting it as, well, they're in southern states. So let's
yeah,
call it medium cost of living. No, they're not, it's not like Mississippi, so it's medium cost of living, cities in southern states. You being in New York, Connecticut, this might be higher for you.
yeah,
So
I think,
I counted daycare as 1,500 to 2,000 a month in medium cost of living.
yeah, I think that sounds right. How much is it per month if you take the daycare out?
It's
Yeah.
not a lot.
So that's really fascinating to me. So it's like basically if you have a grandparent or if you have some sort of person in your life who can help pick up the slack there, it is a significant cost savings. Um, that's really important in my mind here. Um, And so without it, it's like 500 bucks a month extra.
Yeah, so I just want to point out like a lot of these things are not very expensive. So everybody said kids' food is super inexpensive because they eat crap. They
Yeah.
like pasta and chicken nuggets, and that stuff is cheap.
Yep.
Activities can get you, obviously, from ages 0 to 2, there's no activities, but after
Yeah.
that, from age 4 onwards, you're going to be paying for dance class, Girl Scouts, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Weirdly, everybody I've talked to has only girls. There's no information on boys in this. Um, yeah, let's go back to your questions. But yeah, you're right. All this other stuff doesn't add up to that much on a monthly basis.
I mean, that's really great. If it just gives me peace of mind that if I'm adding 500 bucks, if I can get daycare sorted for now, if I'm adding 500 bucks to my budget per month, I think that it really helps my mindset. In terms of like saving for college and stuff like that, um, what do you recommend is something, is it worth starting now? How do you recommend doing it? Like, what do you think is this, the best way?
It comes down to disposable income. So if you can fund a 529, you want to do that as early
What's
as
what's a 529?
it's a tax advantaged educational savings account for a kid. And the earlier that you can fund it, the more it'll snowball and compound and the more it'll be worth. I will say that it's very hard to predict what higher education is going to look like in 20 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have all these assumptions about what college is going to cost based on the prices today.
Mm-hmm.
With the advent of this video, which is going to be put online and just tons and tons of free educational resources, I'm just not sure that we're going to be spending $200,000 to educate a kid in higher ed, inflation adjusted, in you know $20-$40.
Got it. And what how would I set up one of those if I wanted to? Just like Vanguard or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Okay,
So
got it.
we can talk about that separately, like how the
Yeah,
529.
perfect. And so um what do you feel like what are something that it would make sense to be for me to be thinking about as I think about having a kid and expenses? Like what is there anything that I might be missing that I might
Yes.
not be
Yes.
thinking about?
So
Okay.
two assumptions that I think are not safe. One is that the grandparent can manage the child.
Yeah.
So it's different. So I was raised by my grandparents, but my grandparents were in their 50s when I was born.
Yeah. Wow.
Today, when we have grandparents in their 70s, it's a different ballgame.
Mm,
It's from ages 0 to 4 or 0 to 3 require an enormous, well, 0 to 6 months, they're like dormant. They don't do much other than eat and sleep.
hmm.
But when they start to be able to move around and when they're awake, for one, they need constant attention. And it
Yeah.
probably hurts the child's development when they're 9 months old and they're awake and nobody's interacting with them.
Right.
It's probably not good for the kid. And then second, when they start moving around, they require constant supervision. And they're a huge drain on time and energy until they're about 4.
Got it.
So you
So,
can't assume that your mom or Jen's mom is going to be able to keep up with this kid when the moms are 75 themselves.
right. Well, they're not 75, but yes, I agree with you. And even even that's a huge ask of a parent. It's like, the amount of time and energy and, proximity and stuff. So, yeah, I think that that's right. But it's nice to just understand the delta, even if you can get a grandparent to help out for a day a week. I'm sure that can help with the
Yeah,
cost.
so one thing I don't know is how the daycare costs work. I don't know if they're daily or you pay monthly or weekly. So
Yeah,
if it's paid monthly, for example, having grandma help out 1 day per week, that's not going to change the cost. But
yeah,
that depends on how the daycares are organized.
yeah, yeah. So I if you just taking a step back, even if it's not for me, like I mean, people have kids, everybody has kids, but if you're responsible and trying to have a kid, what do you recommend having in savings is a good amount to even just start that process?
Well, so if we're not counting 529s,
Yeah,
you the standard stuff applies. So you need a 6-month emergency reserve in case you or your wife lose your job, but you need
yep,
to up the amount of the emergency reserve, understanding what the cost of the kids are going to be. Obviously, if one of the parents loses their job, then you don't need to pay for daycare.
got it. But there's these startup costs, right? So probably not just having the 6-month reserve, but also having some
Another
startup
5 to
costs,
10K, maybe.
another 5 to 10K.
But here's the X factor. So I don't know what's going on in our society these days, but there's way more kids being born with autism, ADHD, dyslexia. I mean, it might be microplastics in the environment. It might be, this stuff like killing
Yeah,
sperm or whatever it is. I don't know, but this is happening more often.
right.
So this is a huge X factor. Like we've got family friends that have kids that have severe developmental disabilities. Parents are totally healthy.
Right. But you can't plan for that. You kind of have to,
You
yeah,
can't plan for it, but you have to expect that it could happen. And if it does happen, it's an even bigger shock than just
yeah,
having a kid. Having a kid with special needs is like 5x a
yeah,
normal
yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
stress.
And
And,
cost.
and
Yeah.
in this case, this is a child that has dyslexia. She's totally fine. She just has trouble
Right.
reading and writing, but otherwise,
Right.
like totally normal kid. So, but even just dyslexia, which is a relatively minor disorder in the grand scheme of things, this is an additional annual cost of 4.2K.
I see there's a line item here called pet, and then it says bearded dragon costs $400 every 6 months. What is that? Who's bearded dragon?
Bearded dragon, apparently it's some kind of lizard. It's it's uh it's not a Harry Potter thing. It's a real animal. And they the child wanted they have two daughters. So the child wanted a pet. So I guess a bearded dragon, if it's a lizard, it's probably a fairly low maintenance thing. It just probably sits there, doesn't do much,
Yeah,
but it needs an enclosure, it needs proper cleaning, it needs
yeah.
its own food. And so
So,
the swimming pool and the pet, these are the kind of things, again, we're talking, these are upper middle class people.
right.
So when kids show up, kids want stuff and parents want to provide things. But everything costs money, dude.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want a
yeah,
dog that costs time and money. Cats are maybe easier. Like this bearded dragon fish, they had a fish, and the fish like died or something, and then they had to have the aquarium cleaned out, and like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you have to arrange for somebody to take care of it. You go on vacation, like it's just all additional overhead.
So cool. All right. So high level, just so I have this straight, sounds like if you're thinking about having a kid, you're looking at probably 5 to 10K of startup costs in order to just kind of get ready for the child to be here. Then you're looking at about, let's say, $500 ish per month. If you're not including daycare care for like feeding the kid, diapers, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then that number goes up to maybe 2,500 per month, depending on what city you're in and cost of living for if you're going to be paying for daycare. And then as the kid ages, obviously there's way more stuff that will come up in terms of what they will need and want. And so all in, you're looking at about 300K per 18 years for per kid. Is that per kid, roughly?
Yes, per kid. Yeah,
Got
I
it.
mean, so I haven't done this, so I'm gonna map this out, just what all the costs are as the child gets older.
Oh, nice.
So I don't have enough data to fill this out, but you got to think, okay, you're going to buy the kid a car
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you live outside of New York. And then,
Right.
then there's activities and there's other things we haven't talked about. So vacation, this is highly individual based on the family, but you need to budget 1.5 to 2x per capita cost for vacation. So it's not
Right.
just like you and Jen, let's say you guys spent $2,000 each on a vacation. So 4,000
Yeah.
for a 1 week vacation to go somewhere.
Yeah.
If you have two kids, not only you have to double that from 4K to 8K, you have to 2x the price because you can only travel during the spring break and summer.
Right.
You can't
Right.
travel
Right.
during the
Right.
low season. So you're going actually from 2 people to 4 people. You're not doubling the cost, you're 4xing the cost.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. Well, we'll be doing trips to national parks, it sounds like, to start, but
Well, so that's what people, and it's one of the nice things about America. We can take road trips.
yeah.
We have so much scenic beauty here.
Yeah. 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 No,
And
what else? Yeah.
this is also a big variable. So the trend, at least with these people, they're all like, if we didn't have kids, we would be living in the urban center of where we live. So
Got
we
it.
would be going to bars, restaurants, walking everywhere, etc. But they're like, we moved for two reasons. One, we want more space for the kids. Two, we want to be closer to better schools. And everybody I've talked to is actually in excellent public school districts. None of them even
Mm,
considered private school, even though they can afford it. But they're like,
got it.
actually, the public schools where we live are really good.
Love that. Cool, man. Anything else?
Well, I mean, you and I talked previously about you guys considering a house. So for some people, it's going to be buying a bigger house, but in a slightly lower cost area is still going to come out to slightly more money.
Hmm.
So this is, again, I need to do some more research to figure out what the ranges are. But I would assume that this cost goes up if you're going to be buying a new house.
Definitely. Definitely does. Um, cool, man. No, this is really helpful. I appreciate you putting this together, and I'm excited. It looks like video two will be the age matrix, like actually filling that out. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, and we ought
I'm
to talk
excited.
about 529s as well, just how they work and how to set them up and etc. Because you can use them, if you don't use them for educational purposes, they eventually return back to the child. And you can use them for health expenses and things like that. So it's a neat little trick to know about.
Perfect, man. Thanks so much. Lots to digest. I'm excited to, start the journey with a sound financial plan.
All right, thanks, dude. We'll talk later.
Thanks. Bye.